How's it going, everyone? This is Jedi Sith Hunter 66. I haven't been very active lately. I apologize for that, but I thought it was important to make this video today because I have a Reddit account and I am in the Star Wars subreddit. And every so often, I like to make posts, make comments, and stuff. Just spread the love for the franchise. But more often than not, I just like to read posts. So today, I make this post. Basically, it's called every Star Wars movie in a nutshell. And what it entails is like a brief description of each of the films to like a casual viewer because, um, a lot of people might not be as familiar with the term Sith Lord or stuff like that. So I just tried to simplify it for like maybe people who have never seen it. And I only included the original six films, I did not include the sequel trilogy. And what ended up happening was there was people in the comments. This went on for hours, namely two individuals who I'm going to expose. They are examples of toxic Star Wars fans in 2021, and I'm going to just show you guys the conversation. There's like about 80 comments at this point, back and forth, and they obviously didn't read the post. They just saw like, oh, you didn't include the sequels. Now, it's no secret I'm not a big fan of the sequel trilogy, but I would never tell someone that like, oh, you can't like the sequel trilogy or you have to see it my way. And this is what toxic Star Wars fans will do, or toxic fans of any fan base. They'll try to tell you what to like, what not to like, and that it has to be this way when you should just be able to enjoy the franchise any way you want. If I want to only watch the first six movies and the Clone Wars and Legends material, I mean, I do love The Mandalorian, Rogue One, and Solo, but it's my choice. If I see things the way George Lucas did, the creator of Star Wars, I'm entitled to that. Now stop trying to change my opinion. I see this happening to a lot of people, and it's worse. It's worse than ever. I know there's the original trilogy purists who bashed the prequel trilogy, but this is nothing. That was nothing compared to what we're seeing now. We are seeing just an. I think because what happened was the reception of the sequel trilogy was really bad, for understandable reasons. A lot of people did do like The Last Jedi, and there were some good aspects of that particular film. But I think in this particular Star Wars subreddit, I think people felt bad for Daisy Ridley, the actor who played Finn, the actress who played Rose Tico, I believe her name is, and because yeah, the actors shouldn't have been criticized, just like back in the day, Jake Lloyd and Natalie Portman shouldn't have been. But at the same time, it's like people are now just defending the sequels for the sake of it, and even worse, trying to project their opinions and agendas onto others in unnecessary places. This particular post had nothing to do with the sequel trilogy. I did not mention it, I did not bash it. Yet, we just see all these arguments and disrespect. And I'm going to show you guys the conversation in a minute. Reddit's kind of weird with comments. If there's like a bunch of replies, some like comments disappear and like they're they're hard to find and they're kind of buried in the mix. I wish they would do a better job with their interface, but um and I've been debating with these individuals, and people might say like, "Oh, well, why bother? Why even engage with people like that?" I think I love Star Wars, and um I respect Star Wars fans and stuff, and I think it's a slap in the face to people who love the franchise for whatever their reasons are, and you shouldn't try to change anyone's opinion. So I felt like I was standing up for myself and others. Um, so um, I've never screen shared on StreamYard before, so I'm trying to figure out how to do it. But before I get into it, just want to thank anyone watching. I know I haven't played Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes in a while. Um, I just have a lot going on with like school and all sorts of other stuff, but haven't really had time for Galaxy of Heroes because Galaxy of Heroes is a very time-consuming game. I love it to death, but I don't have the patience for the grind right now. Perhaps another time, but that's not why we're here. So let's get started with gonna show you guys first the post and then the subsequent comments and my replies to them and then the whole dragged out argument. There were a few individuals defending me as well, which I appreciate. So um, we're gonna share screen. Um, okay, just want to make sure I'm doing this right. Okay, so here we are. This is the original post. We're gonna get to all the replies and stuff. I'm known as Disciplined 2021 on Reddit. I've gotten 3 awards for this post, which I appreciate. So I just wrote every Star Wars movie in a nutshell. You can take a moment to read these descriptions of the film. I just tried to explain it in their most basic terms. Like if you turn on a cable television channel, like and A New Hope was on, it would say something like what it says, like a young man who has lost everything joins a wise old hermit in an adventure with unlikely friends to rescue a princess from an evil empire. So just tried to explain the most basic terms. I thought it'd be a fun thing. And then there was a little joke at the end about the Clone Wars film about how like now I love the Clone Wars, but we all know the film was kind of a train wreck. And I just said cartoon characters fight epic battles to protect a baby slug known as Stinky. Their motivation to protect the slug is to make space travel more convenient because the plot was shallow as hell. So it was just basically a joke. So I point out here that like notice how each plot becomes more complex and complicated because like yeah, A New Hope is like okay, uh saving a princess basically from an evil empire. But then in Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, you have all these like political elements going on, and um, although it was unnecessarily complex at times, I think a lot of it really adds to the story. So I tried to be as descriptive but brief as possible. But so we're gonna go to the first. This is sorted by best, so we're just gonna go in order of that. So there's a user here named Nova Lurker, and um, they just had their feedback. There's nothing wrong with this one here. They didn't like my Phantom Menace description stuff, but that's cool. But it was a nice, respectful post of feedback. I appreciated it. Um, didn't understand why I was like I referred to the Sith as a satanic cult because I figure a lot of people don't know what the Sith are. So just explaining it to someone who's never seen Star Wars before, and I explained that, and then he's just like, okay, fair enough, especially with how Maul looks. So nothing wrong there. This isn't even the individual I wanted to talk about, but he is another one in the comments. He or she, named Donor Body. They wrote, is ignoring a third of the saga and a half of the 11 movies an example of positive or negative toxicity gatekeeping? I was kind of confused by this because I don't know if he's saying. I've seen this term gatekeeping. I guess it's like when you tell people what you can and can't like, but there's none of that in that post. Just because I didn't include the sequel trilogy in this post, that's gatekeeping? Really? Anyways, so I reply, I just, the clever Obi-Wan Kenobi thing, that depends on your point of view. Well, I'm going to go back to the stream for a second, make sure you guys can see everything. Let me know in the comments if you can't, and I'll try to fix it. So next reply is saying you're reviewing all the movies but not really is pretty suspect, and I'd say it seems like you're gatekeeping in a passive aggressive way rather than having the balls to actually say you are. It's not a matter of having the balls to say I don't like the sequels. I'll bash on the sequels any day, but that's not what this post was about. It had nothing to do with the sequels, and that's all this individual inferred from my post, which was tagged as just a fun post, yet that there's now this like toxic sequel love that like, oh, if you don't like the sequels, you're not a true Star Wars fan. Like it's worse than um the stuff going on with the prequel hate. And I think what happened was, like I said earlier, the sequel hate was so bad that people online feel the need to stand up for it, which I mean to a degree I can respect, but at the same time it's just going too far. Like if you want to defend the actors and say it's not really their fault, they did the best they could with the material given, that sort of thing, that's fine. But to start telling others like, no, you need to like these movies, it's just BS. So I replied and said, nope, not at all. If you like the sequels, I'm happy for you. I've made it clear several times in many of my posts that Star Wars has 6 movies, in my opinion, and many people echo that sentiment because I do believe there's a lot of people out there who see Star Wars in the same way George Lucas does and disregards the sequel trilogy because it wasn't that well written. Even George Lucas doesn't think so. Now, if George Lucas made 7, 8, and 9, he had some great ideas. He was gonna make Luke Skywalker the Jedi he should have been, the one we've seen in Legends. We barely saw a sniff of him in Return of the Jedi, becoming that coming into his own and really becoming that amazing Yoda-like Jedi. And if George Lucas created a sequel trilogy, that's what it would have entailed. Also, Darth Maul would have been the main villain. He came back on Clone Wars, was the head of that crime syndicate. That would have been in George Lucas's sequel trilogy. But um, I know he got a shit ton of money for selling Disney, and that was the primary reason. But I think a lot of it is due to the prequel hate, because um, that's the difference between the sequel trilogy and the prequel trilogy. George Lucas did not make the sequel trilogy. It's, in my opinion, not Star Wars. And if it's Star Wars to you, good for you. I'm not going to tell you that you can't like Star Wars in the way you want to, because that's what I'm saying right now, that like if I because I say later on that the sequels aren't canon. They're not canon in my head. But if they are in other people's, that's fine. People's like, no, it's a fact. It's canon. Well, it's not to me. Sorry. What's canon to me is what happens in the expanded universe. I never even liked that term, expanded universe, because it all should have just been one timeline. I hate this like Legends crap they have now, and that's just my opinion. But we're gonna continue with the replies, just so we can really get to the meat of what's really going on. So but there's 11 movies. Now, first of all, 2 of them, Rogue One and Solo, which I have no problem with. Those are pretty solid movies. Those aren't part of the Skywalker saga. Those are like, I don't know if you want to call them spin-offs, or they're their own entity. So if you want to include the sequels, there's 9. He says, whether you recognize that or not. Can't just ignore the half of the cinematic output in a post titled Every Star Wars Movie in a Nutshell. Now, I realize I said every Star Wars movie, but it was a figure of speech. When I'm typing up a post in Reddit, I'm not thinking of what um I'm not thinking that this sort of thing is going to happen, that people are going to criticize me for not including the sequels in a post. I'm just thinking like every Star Wars movie to me, and that's the original 6. I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And so he's saying I can't. So I just write, I can't, or you don't want me to, because this individual seems personally offended that I did not include the sequel trilogy in this post. And for all intents and purposes, this is not an important post by any means. It's the kind I put it for the flair. I put it under fun, just like the 2 or 3 sentence descriptions of like the main plot points in the film. It's probably one of the most least important posts ever posted in this subreddit. So we have a new user here named Darth Vader. That's original. Says you can't say that and also be correct. My thinking like, oh, says who, you? And I just said you're entitled to your opinion. I mean, what can you say at that point? You can't argue with an individual who's that close-minded. I'm just checking, making sure this is all working okay. Someone said, the same Darth Vader says, it's not an opinion. There are 11 films, lol. Yeah, maybe there are, but I don't consider the sequel trilogy or even Rogue One and Solo Star Wars films. I'm sorry, I just don't. They're not George Lucas. George Lucas is Star Wars. These were not his ideas. I mean, you could argue maybe Rogue One and Solo because they're based off of ideas that George Lucas created, like in Solo, with the Kessel Run and all that sort of stuff. I know it was just a throwaway line in A New Hope. It shows that really grasping for straws when it comes to the plot point. But I enjoyed that movie. I enjoyed Rogue One, but you can't compare them to the original six. But when it comes to the sequel trilogy, my goodness, they're no different than any other Disney movies. It's Star Wars in name because they bought the rights to it. It's not Star Wars, I'm sorry. And again, if it is to you, that's great. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to say you can't have that opinion because of course you can. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care what you like and don't like. I know what I like and what I don't like. So I said in this sub maybe, but I know but most people I know are indifferent towards the sequels, and some people forget they even exist, which is true. I think a lot of the fanfares died down. And I said I think that's pretty telling about what's canon and what isn't. This is the thing. It doesn't matter what Disney considers Disney or Lucasfilm doesn't matter what they consider canon, and they're not George Lucas, and their opinion matters even less because they're not even fans. They don't they don't know a lot about the franchise. It's pretty evident in their output. So we have an individual here. I don't know if I'm saying this right. Username Nithromir. I apologize if I mispronounced that, but he or she is defending what I'm saying it is not toxic. Anyone can perceive the franchise as they want. You may not like his point of view, but that does not mean you can call it toxic. Calling it so because you dislike it is and of itself toxic. I said 100% bro because that couldn't be more on the money. That's exactly what's going on here. I'm not telling people this is the way the franchise is. I'm saying this is how I perceive it. This is what Star Wars means to me. But trying to tell me like you can't exclude the sequels that whether you like it or not, they're part of it. Not to me. And you have to accept that. Or don't accept it, but it's not my problem. So now we see this donor body again saying it's referring to I'm not even going to read that, that's nonsense. Then Nitro says, okay, I'm referring to this post. It isn't toxic, so I don't know why you're referring it to another post about gatekeeping. Whatever that donor body's talking about, it's apples and oranges, has nothing to do with the topic at hand. But this whole gatekeeping thing, that's not me at all. I don't care if if you think I've seen a lot of people say Last Jedi is their favorite Star Wars movie. I'm like, really? That's interesting. I mean, I it's probably the worst one if you ask me. Well, besides Rise of Skywalker, but at the same time, it's like it's your opinion, and if there's something you liked about the movie that I didn't, good for you. I wish I could have enjoyed it. I was so excited when new Star Wars movies were coming out, but to me, they just weren't up to par. So I just said, exactly, I'm expressing love for Star Wars in my way. I've never told someone not to enjoy something they love the way they want to. If people disagree with me in the comments and I defend my standpoint, that shouldn't be condemned. Because that's the thing. People can attack and like say like, "Oh, you should have included the sequel trilogy. You're not a real Star Wars fan." But if I reply and defend my standpoint, I'm looked at as the toxic one. I'm just gonna refresh the page real quick, see if there's any more replies. Because these people have been debating me all day on it. Um, I did get a message in the chat. I'm just gonna check that real quick. Oh, I turned my cam on by mistake. I meant to stop sharing the screen for a second. But yeah, this is me. I wasn't gonna turn my camera on, but that's cool. I guess I can keep it on for a moment. I am just going to check this message real quick, so just bear with me. I think it's just spam. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the video for that. Um, Before I go on, I know it's taking a while to read these comments, and I'm gonna get to the meat of it, but I'm sorry about that light in the background. It might be a little distracting, but I'm just here to demonstrate what a toxic Star Wars fan looks like. And it's so different from like prequel bashers because like fans bullied Jake Lloyd and the actor who played Jar Jar Binks, and you know what? The acting wasn't even that bad from either one of them. You may not like Jar Jar Binks the character, but the actor did a phenomenal job conveying what he was supposed to convey. He was perfect for his role. When another actor voiced Jar Jar Binks in Star Wars: The Clone Wars, people shit all over it because it's like it's not Ahmed Best. I think that's his name because he is Jar Jar Binks. He brings the character to life. In fact, it probably would have been a hell of a lot worse if it wasn't him. And when it comes to Jake Lloyd, he's a 10-year-old kid, okay? And I think he did pretty good for what he was given. It wasn't his choice to say yippee or am I ever going to see you again or all this stuff that people criticize. He did what he could with the material given. And people wanted to say like the Phantom Menace wasn't good because of Anakin and Jar Jar, and even to a lesser extent Natalie Portman, because she was supposedly monotone as Queen Amidala. They told her to be that way. The difference in the sequel trilogy is the actress Daisy Ridley. I mean, I think she put on a good performance for what she was given. The writing wasn't good, and I don't think the actors conveyed emotions as well as they should have on their face. But I'm also not going to blame them because they were probably told to act stoic or act in a certain way. You criticize the writing, not the actors, and there are a lot of like prequel optimists now, such as myself. I mean, the original trilogy is obviously the best, but you know uh, the prequels are amazing as well, in my opinion. Um, Sorry, I just got a little distracted for a second. Anyways, before I keep rambling on that, let's get back to the comments. Gonna share my screen again. So where were we on this? Um, the donor body says again, OP is arguing in the comments on his own post that he, she, they get to decide what is or isn't canon, and the Lucasfilm Story Group doesn't. Is that not gatekeeping? Can admitting half the canon franchise and repeatedly claiming it's not canon be somewhat considered somewhat toxic in a subreddit supposedly dedicated to the entire franchise? I'm not claiming it's not canon to you. I'm saying it's not canon to me. I don't look at it as canon. In my point of view, in my head canon, as I guess people like to call it, there's no such thing as legends. There's one storyline. These may as well be fan fictions, and that's to me. And to you, it might be something different. But trying to call me toxic, I don't mean to harp on this, but for creating a post about Star Wars, just something really small, just typing up a few sentences of what the movies are about. Because I didn't do that for the sequel trilogy, and honestly, the biggest reason I didn't is because I don't even know what to say about the sequel trilogy. The plot is so contrived. What's to say? I mean, if I were to summarize them, and I'm just being honest here, The Force Awakens would be like, I guess, a feminist woman, a African American male, and an Asian American woman fight evil white men to stop them from doing evil white things. That's my interpretation of The Force Awakens. Oh, and Han Solo dies. He should have died in Return of the Jedi, to be honest. Um, but on the other hand, Return of the Jedi, um, it had its dark moments on the Death Star with Luke, Vader, and so I guess it's good they kept some of it lighthearted. I don't know, but The Last Jedi, if I were to describe that in a few sentences, Luke Skywalker is figuratively and literally assassinated while Rey the Feminist continues to Now, by the way, before I continue on that, this is another thing like people will criticize. I'm not saying feminist in a derogatory way, because like it's a certain type of them, because like in a lot of ways I'm a feminist too. I believe in equal rights, and I believe women should get paid the same amount as men and all that sort of stuff, and they shouldn't be held down in any aspect of life. But there are extremists out there who literally hate men and wish they weren't on the planet. So when I say, and I'm not saying Daisy Ridley's that way. I don't know the individual behind the character, but I'm saying the way the character is written as is as a feminist stereotype. That's all I mean. I don't mean it in a bad way that like feminists are bad. I'm a feminist myself to a degree. But anyways, here's how I would describe The Last Jedi. Mere mortal Rey Skywalker, I guess they're calling her, even though she's was written to be the granddaughter of Palpatine, defeats the most experienced and powerful Sith Lord in the universe without suffering a scratch. I think that's what pissed a lot of people off. Now you go to Rotten Tomatoes, and you can't always go by them because a lot of these uppity critics don't know what they're talking about anyway when it comes to movies. The Rise of Skywalker was like 50%, and they love Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, but they couldn't even defend Rise of Skywalker. So, anyways, um, I don't mean to get too far off topic here, but so we're going to reply to, or I'm going to read this reply here. I said, what I said was, I can decide for myself, you can decide for yourself, and Disney can decide for themselves what is canon. Why are you trying to force me to have the same beliefs as Disney when the creator of Star Wars doesn't even agree? I would never tell you to accept Legends material the way I do if you didn't want to. So don't do it to me. Stop trying to push your agenda. I said nothing about the sequels in my post. You and the other individual brought it up and tried to make me a bad guy for only referring to the original 6 films in my post. And yeah, all I was trying to say there is that like I'm not telling you that you have to believe in Mara Jade and Ben Skywalker and all these amazing Legends characters. If you want to disregard them, disregard them. I don't care. It doesn't make a difference to me. I don't even know you. But you're trying to tell me that I can't disregard the sequels if I want to, and like, no, you have to consider them canon. No, I don't. Why? Just because Disney says so? I don't care what Disney thinks. They're not George Lucas. They didn't make Star Wars. Disney is a rich, rich company, the only company that probably could afford to buy Star Wars. And they make the decisions now. They make business decisions. They don't make decisions for the fans, so I don't care. Anyways, Knife Thromir comments again saying incorrect. I don't know if you guys can see these replies. If you can, I'll stop reading them to save time. But anywho, incorrect. OP is not arguing so much as saying how she views the Star Wars franchise. OP hasn't stated that is how it is, and you are wrong. OP has stated that it is how she views the franchise. You are arguing about their own stance. That is the toxic behavior. No, it is not toxic at all as long as the person isn't trying to force their viewpoints down other people's throats, just like you are doing to OP. Again, this guy is absolutely right. I'm not trying to force my opinion on this. I didn't even state my opinion on the sequels. The sequels did not come up at all in this post. I was talking about the original 6 films, and because I didn't include the sequels, these individuals feel so disrespected. Like, how dare you not include the sequel trilogy? They're not that good to me, I'm sorry. And if you think they are, that's cool. I'm not going to come on your if you made a post about do you know how many sequel love trilogy or excuse me, how much love for the sequel trilogy I see on Reddit? I still give it a thumbs up, even if I don't agree with it, because it's clearly passionate fans expressing themselves about something they enjoy, and good for them. You know what I mean? So It's exactly right. It's my personal point of view, and I'll express it regardless whether or not people agree. What I won't do is say, this is why you must see it my way. That is not for me to say. We all formulate our own individual opinions. It's hypocritical to call me toxic, then tell me basically the equivalent of, you're not a true Star Wars fan if you dislike all the material. That isn't for anyone to say what people can and can't like and dislike. So, yeah, it's a lot of reiteration, but because people keep making the same convoluted arguments. I'm just refreshing the page to see if no replies. It looks like they're done arguing with me, thankfully. Um, so where was I on this? Um, the next post, I think this is the guy I wanted to get to. TLM86. Now, what does TLM stand for? I wonder. So probably born in 86. If that's the correct case, I'm surprised you don't like the prequel trilogy, because this guy goes on a tangent about how much he loves the sequel trilogy. He doesn't say that, but I can infer that that's what his attitude is. And if it is, I don't really care. That's his thing. But um, what I do oftentimes, I go to the source. I go to, you know, this is more the individual I want to expose. I don't really care about the other guy. He was just a moron. This guy was a passive aggressive a hole, if you ask me. So TLM86. So he spends all day responding to my posts. He's one of these people who comments on every post, always has an opinion, never says anything positive. Like, look, why though? Who writes a comment like that? Like, why though? Say something of substance. I'm gonna go to this post. I'm curious as to what it actually is. We'll read his comments in a minute, but so isn't it odd that Lucasfilm is yet to acknowledge that Lucasfilm was in The Mandalorian? What's that supposed to mean? Just the fact he was in it is an acknowledgement. Oh, I see. No promotional material, no merchandise. He was in it for like, I mean, I don't really agree with this post, but this is a place for people like to express their opinions. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't really care about the main post, but so I guess I kind of get the context now. Now he's saying why though. So I guess I do agree with that, but that's still such a stupid thing to write. Why even waste time commenting on that? Just go to the next post. Why even click on that? I don't know. So he's telling someone not to be rude. No, I saw this post earlier. This individual was clearly joking. This guy takes everything literally. Has a condescending attitude. You might think I'm jumping to a lot of conclusions, but wait till you see some of these comments. This individual inspired me to make this video. And I'm not really outspoken on this stuff. I don't really care, but this got under my skin. It's not this individual that got under my skin like he likes to think, but it's more just a sadness of mine where the fan base is at. Not everybody, but there's toxic individuals out there. Like, you can't even criticize the actress who plays like Rose Tico, or the actor who plays Finn, or even Adam Driver, or anything like that without like, how dare you? They tried their best. Well, no kidding, they tried their best. It's different than when Jake Lloyd, Natalie Portman, Ahmed Best, even Hayden Christensen were bullied. That's a different story, because I believe there was like death threats involved and all sorts of crazy shit. I mean, for Christ's sake, Ahmed Best, um, like contemplating suicide over it. That's how bad it was. That's how toxic those fans were. Here's the difference. A lot of people who don't like the sequel trilogy, I've noticed, they hold back. They're more respectful than the people who hated on the prequels. And they're more logical, and they're more like understanding of why it's the writing, it's not the actors necessarily, even though it may be sometimes, but there's that wiggle room there that it could have been the writers, as far as like why the movies were an abomination. But I digress. So he wrote, "You missed 5." So fucking arrogant, self-centered, entitled comment. Excuse my language, but saying you missed 5. I'm not making my post for you. This isn't for you. If you don't like the post, don't click on it. I mean, what I was looking for when I made this post is people who I wanted to get feedback on these descriptions. Okay, I didn't write about the sequels, so what? I didn't want to. And he's saying like you missed 5 as if like I don't know. It's arrogant as can be. Like no, that was intentional. It's almost like when you're this might not be the best example. It's the best I can think of when you're in like middle school and you don't have a hall pass or something, and this guy's acting like the hall monitor. It's that trivial. I was respectful. I didn't get on his case. I just said I just focused on the Skywalker story to demonstrate how everything comes back full circle, just as George Lucas intended. George Lucas has talked about that a lot, about the parallels, about I know people make fun of it now, but the whole it's poetry, sort of they rhyme kind of thing, and you know that's what I was going for, because I'm gonna go back to the original post for a moment. I talk about Luke Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker here in the parallels, and if you've never seen Star Wars, if this is the only thing you've ever seen regarding Star Wars, you see Return of the Jedi. General Luke Skywalker must choose between good and evil to save his father from a sadistic emperor. Go all the way back to Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith. War hero Anakin Skywalker assists in the executions with the belief of giving his pregnant wife security and safety. Mutilated and scarred, Anakin is forced to live with the rest of his life in the chained armor of Darth Vader. In Empire Strikes Back, it says Luke Skywalker is stunned by a revelation from Empire leader Darth Vader, and he must now face his inner demons. So, one can kind of infer, never have seen Star Wars, say you never knew about the I am your father reveal. Someone can say, like, wait a second, well, it's saying here that, like, okay, Luke is stunned by a revelation, but in the next film, he must choose between good and evil to save his father. But Darth Vader is not mentioned in that description, so one can infer, wait, is Darth Vader his father? And then you go down, there's all this talk about Anakin Skywalker, and that's same last name, so you're like, is that his father? And then you realize it at the end when it says he's forced to live the rest of his life in the chained armor of Darth Vader. So it all comes back full circle. That's why the prequels were made. That's why he went back in time. George Lucas, that's why he went back in time first. Explain the origins of Darth Vader. That's pretty obvious. Star Wars is all about Darth Vader. Nobody cared about Kylo Ren. I'm just being honest. No disrespect. Okay, so here we go. He said, so don't say every movie then. Trying to tell me what I can and can't say on my post. This is an example of a toxic Star Wars fan. Trying to tell you how to do things, trying to tell you how you should enjoy, all the way down to what you should post on Reddit about Star Wars. Hey, get a life, my goodness. So, anyways, I just wrote, I'm sorry this offends you, because clearly it does. I mean, I would have never commented something like this because I wouldn't care enough. Say this individual wrote something about the sequel trilogy of why he likes it or something of that nature, I'd probably just give it a thumbs up and move on. If it's a good write-up, I might even comment like, hey, there's some interesting points, well done, blah blah blah. I wouldn't be coming to a comment section and be that arrogant. So I said, I'm sorry you think it does. Well, no, I know it does. It's pretty obvious just by, the reasoning I can use to infer how offended you really are. It's not just these posts. I clicked on your profile. You do this all the time. And this is what I mean. It's the people who harp on Star Wars. There's nothing wrong with loving Star Wars. I love it to death. It's my favorite film franchise of all time. It's a big part of my life. But if I'm ever to comment on someone else's opinion of Star Wars, it's either positive or I say nothing at all. Or if I do say something, if I disagree with someone, it's always respectful and it's always like in a way to create an engaging conversation. I might be like, "Oh, so why do you see it that way? I'd like to hear your point of view on that." I'm not just gonna say the shoes was on the other foot, and someone was saying the um they wrote what Star Wars is all about to them, and they didn't include the prequel trilogy. I love the prequel trilogy with all my heart. I'm not gonna go to their post and say, "You missed 3 movies." Why would I give a fuck? If they don't consider the prequel trilogy as part of them, part of what they like, it doesn't matter to me. They can like what they like. Doesn't bother me in the slightest. That's how I know it bothers this individual because I would have never done something like this. So, anyways, let's continue. This goes on forever. So, um, I know I've been on here for a while, but um, I just wanted to demonstrate what's going on here. So, it says I wrote back. It mattered enough to you to tell me what I can and can't title posts because yeah, that's a petty thing. And he said, everyone is entitled to their opinion, bro. If the sequels happen to be so plot deprived that there isn't much to say about them, is that my fault? That's a big reason why I didn't include the sequel trilogy. It wasn't out of spite. It was just like, what can I really say about these movies? I don't even really grasp the plot. Wasn't really well thought out. Like, look at the prequels. I mean, my goodness, there were so many great plot points and things that connected. Palpatine's rise to power, the clone army with Sifo Dyas. I know it got confusing to the casual viewer, but if you love it like I do, you're just in amazement of all the chess pieces moving and everything going on. Um, the the fall of the Jedi Order, their arrogance, their dogma, their falling right into Palpatine's hands. There were so many little things to the prequels that just add to the flair of it, where, like, in the sequel trilogy, there's nothing. The original trilogy has much simpler plot points than the prequel trilogy, but that's because the story they're trying to tell is so damn good that they can really zero in and focus on one thing. It's more about the themes, and they're earnest and wholesome and honest and heartwarming and encouraging, and that's what the original trilogy was trying to do. The prequel trilogy tried to dive more into the lore. I don't know what the fuck the sequel trilogy tried to do. Was it a fuck you to George Lucas that, like, so we can decanonize um, all the books, all the novels and media, um, video games, comics, you name it. Everything that went into it, they just took a big shit on George Lucas in the process. None of this would have been possible if it wasn't for him, and nobody respects the guy. So, anyways, says it hardly takes much to post a quick comment that doesn't offend or matter. So, okay, yeah, but you're literally taking time out of your day. I don't care how long it is. To what's the point in writing that? I mean, you wouldn't. At least I hope you wouldn't. Go to a subreddit of, say, like, I don't know, take the band Green Day, for example. I know not everyone likes Green Day, but there's debates in the Green Day community about, like, um, some people don't like American Idiot. Some people don't like anything after Dookie or Insomniac. They like that hard punk rock sound, and I love it too. I think it kicks ass, but I appreciate the artistry of American Idiot. And But at the same time, I'm not really big on the last two albums. I think Uno Dos and Trey, even though it was kind of an experiment gone wrong, there was some hidden gems in there. I'm not big on the last two albums. Some people like them, I think, but I would hope if you were a fan of Green Day, you wouldn't go into a subreddit and say like, "Oh, how can you like a like American Idiot? It's so," and then just shit on the album, even though it's like the last big rock album. Um, you seem like one of those kind of people where everywhere you go, you have an opinion on something and you have to be negative. And I may be like negative on some things like the sequel trilogy or when it comes to Green Day, the last two albums, but um, I'm also not inclined to share it every minute. If it comes up, I'll express my opinion, but I'm not going to go out of my way to shit on something because it's a waste of time. So I just reply, and yet you continue to be triggered because I don't consider the sequels to be canon, and that's just my thing. I don't consider it to be canon. There's one Star Wars timeline, and people want to call it head canon. I hate that term because it's not real. It's a matter of what's real to you and what's not. They put Disney on a pedestal. Excuse me, just a moment. Sorry about that. Thank you for being patient. I just wanted to check and make sure you guys could see the comments. We're gonna go back. Um, so he says, "No, not particularly. I don't really rate your opinion on them," which that's a weird way to phrase it. What do you mean rate my opinion on them? You could say like, I don't really consider your opinion on them, but it's not a matter of rating, like rating on a scale of 1 to 10. So um, this person doesn't seem particularly literate, but I'm not judging. So I wrote, and yet it mattered enough for you to tell me what I can and can't post, which is true. This goes on. It looks like Reddit cut it off. I'll try to find another way to access the rest of it because that's when it gets good. Um, we'll go down a little bit, see if there's anything else. I said, "Oh no, I'm losing karma. How will I go on?" Because yeah, I guess I'm getting downvoted to hell on some of this. But I mean, whatever it is, what it is. It's their opinion, you know. Um, I know there's people out there that agree with me on that. That to them, this isn't some sort of unpopular opinion. A lot of people consider the first six films the only Star Wars. Some people only consider A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back as Star Wars, two films. And if that works for them, good for them. I mean, in my subjective biased opinion, if it was a person I care about or maybe a friend, I'd say like, hey, for your own benefit, you should give some of the other films a chance. I think you might like them. But if they didn't want to, I wouldn't be on their case about it because that's their choice. Um, Someone said I have three too many movies here, and I assume what they're referring to is the fact I included the prequels at all. So probably someone who just likes the originals. There are individuals who believe in that point of view, and that's okay. I just wrote, "You mean the prequels? I think they're great, but I understand why some people don't like them." So, and he says, it's just misleading when you say every movie when those aren't legitimate entries. I don't know. I think that's kind of an indisputable one to say that, like, Star Wars is not, or excuse me, the prequels are not legitimate. I don't think you can really say that because it came from George Lucas. It came from the creator of Star Wars. It was his vision. That's the difference. If George Lucas made 7, 8, and 9, and whether they were shitty or not, I don't think you can really dispute whether they're canon or not because they're in the timeline. Um, then there was well, seeing as the creator of Star Wars made the prequels, I'd say they're about as canon as it gets. The sequels, on the other hand, good lord, that's just my opinion. So that everyone's entitled to their opinion, blah blah blah. Listen, I actually got to get going for a little bit. I might be back on later to continue. There was some more points I wanted to make. I wanted to show some more comments from that individual because it gets good. That's where the real toxicity comes out. Um, I will be back later. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you got the message about what a toxic Star Wars fan looks like in 2021. And I'll see you guys later.